Models can be dangerous in the SBL exam. I've seen loads of students who have got lost in the exam trying to use models in the wrong way. And also, they prepared for the exam in the wrong way. But don't worry, I'm here to help you and make sure you're using models perfectly in the build up to your SBL exam. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how you should be using models, and I'm going to use a real exam. I'm going to give you a real demonstration from an actual recent exam question to show you how you should be using models. And I'm also going to give you direct advice from the examining team. So I'm going to use those examiner comments and pass on some of their feedback on how people are using models. And then I'm also going to give you some actions, so things you need to do, and make sure you are prepared for this. Before we start, I'm going to show you a quote from the examiner. Demonstration of technical knowledge or explanation of theory does not score marks in the SBL exam. This is directly from the examining team. And I'd say this is one of the biggest mistakes students make in SBL, is that they focus so much on just reciting the theory, memorizing all this stuff, including models, and then regurgitating them, just reciting them in their exam without application. So application to the exhibits, using the exhibits that they've given you in the exam, is crucial in SBL, and it's way more important than the models. So that's the first thing I'm going to say, is it's all about application. If you just recite stuff, if you just demonstrate, oh, I've remembered this model, I'm going to tell you everything I know about it, but I've ignored the exhibits, you're not going to get any marks. So really important that you know that right from the start. So how should you use models in SBL? And for my image, I thought I'd use a model. There's Ben just after a haircut recently. Definitely not Ben, but here is a model. And how should we use these models in SBL? Well, firstly, exhibits are key. So be driven by the information in the exhibit. So just use the stuff they've given you and keep referring to that. Use that to lead your answers. Now, this is the key bit, right? Use models if they help you. You don't have to use models if you don't want to. So when I keep saying about models, what I'm talking about here is things like a PESTEL or a Porter's 5 forces or a BCG matrix or a Mendelow's matrix or Lewin's force field. All of these models, I love them. They're brilliant. If they will help your answer and you think they're relevant in that scenario, you can use them. But if you don't, and you don't refer to them at all, and you just use the information from the exhibit and offer advice and answer the questions, you will still earn marks. So use them if you want to, if you think they'll help you, and sometimes they will, by the way. If this is analyzing the risk of a company, I might want to use a PESTEL. That will help me just get some ideas down, because there's a bit of a framework, isn't it? They're there to help you. But if you didn't use PESTEL and you just identified different risks, that'd be fine as well. So models aren't all that important. And I think people go about SBL the wrong way. They try and memorize all of them and then force them in. And that's my next point, is don't force models in. If you're thinking, I feel like I should probably use Porter's 5 forces here, and then off you go talking about the threat of competition and all this and forcing it in, and it doesn't fit, you're just wasting time. Like, why would you do that? So just only use them if you think, that's a natural place to use this and I want to use that and I'm comfortable using it. If you're not and you just want to use the information from the exhibits, that's absolutely fine. Let's give you an example. This is going to be a nice way to demonstrate this. This is from one of my favorite past exams, Bego, which is one that we cover in Club SBL. We analyze this one and we actually do the full exam as part of the course, which is brilliant. I love doing this one. And this requirement was prepare a report. So you need a report format, of course, for the CFO, which assesses Bego's current service portfolio. So they were like a bit like an Uber, like a taxi company. So it was assessing their current service portfolio, and they wanted us to determine appropriate strategies to manage the portfolio effectively. 20 marks. So this is a big, chunky question. So it was assessing their portfolio, what they're currently doing, and then suggesting or determining appropriate strategies to manage the portfolio effectively as well. So we've got a couple of things going on there, and 20 marks. And then we had also 4 marks for our analysis skills. So breaking down that and analyzing what they've given us. Okay, so that was the question. Now this is a bit of Exhibit 1. I've chopped off the bottom 2. There were a couple of other services they offered, but they were a very similar structure, so it doesn't matter too much. But this is an extract of Exhibit 1 from this exam that you were given. And they have their ride sharing, which is just like, like a taxi service, but you share with other people. And they also have this ride hailing in here as well, which is a traditional taxi like Uber, where you just sort of flag a taxi and then it arrives and it takes you on your own. So you're not sharing with other people. So these are two of their services. Doesn't matter too much about the case. We don't really need to get into Bego too much. Even though I love it and I could talk about it all day, we don't need to get into it too much. But what I want to show you is how you should be using this exhibit and the mistake the students were making. So you'll see here on the left, you've got market activities. And in this one, it tells us about market growth. So it tells us about that market in the industry, and market growth rate is 6%. And then it tells us about competition just to the right of that. And you'll see there, we've got Bego, we're third on that list. So we've got Delhi and Zembi, our big competitors. And then we've got Bego at 20%. So we've got some market shares. And then same for ride hailing. We've got market growth, a bit higher, 11%. And then we've got a market share. Okay. So this was the question. And we had to determine their current portfolio, like assess their portfolio, and then come up with some strategies as to how they could essentially improve them as well. So just think, is there a model here that springs to mind? We're talking about using models. Is there one that jumps out to you when we talk about market growth and market share? Well, some of you might be thinking the Boston Consulting Group Matrix, the BCG Matrix. Do you remember that one with your cash cow and your star and your problem child? And you just working through that grid and seeing where we're at. So that's the BCG Matrix, the Boston Consulting Group Matrix, which is a really good one to use if you want to. So this was one of those questions where if that sprung to mind and you're going, yeah, okay, we've got a dog, or we've got a cash cow, or we've got a problem child or a star, you could use those and you could put those into this. But if you just talk generally about, market growth is quite high, 11% seems reasonably high, however, the competition is high and our market share is a little bit low. If you just talked about that and then talked about the strategies without mentioning dog or cash cow or star or problem child, you could still get full marks. You didn't need to use it. So this is one of those questions where, BCG, I think, would have helped. And in ACCA's model answers, they do talk about BCG and they do mention some of these, but some people wouldn't have done, and they would have been fine. So how should you have approached this? Well, firstly, headings. We love headings at Club SBL. Making it easy to mark is important. So I would have talked about ride hailing and ride sharing, all the other way around. And I would have then had headings for the other services that they offered as well. And then under each of them, I would have then assessed their current portfolio. So I would have talked about market growth and market share of each of these things. So 6% and then the 20% for the ride sharing. So I would have discussed those. And at that point, I then would also discuss the strategy. What should we do with that? And again, if you wanted to link to BCG and say, okay, this appears to be, they've got a bit of a star, or they've got a bit of a problem child, whatever you thought it was, then great, you could talk about that in strategy. But if you didn't mention those and you just gave some general advice about how they should improve and what they need to do, absolutely fine. The other thing to note is, right, this is really subjective. The BCG matrix, it says, is their market growth high or low? Is their market share high or low? What's high? Is 6% high or low? I don't know. It's hard to know. There's not really any context, is there? So I remember when I did this question for the first time and I was going, I'd say that. I then looked at ACCA's answers and actually they went with something slightly different. They're arguing a different way. And I was going, SBL is quite subjective. So that's the other thing with models is they're there just to give you a bit of a framework for something to talk about. It doesn't have to be that or that. It's not black and white. It's not high or low. It doesn't work like that. It is quite subjective. So again, if you ended up with something slightly different, that's fine. Or if you didn't use it at all, not a problem. And then for your ride hailing as well, market growth, and you've got your market share. So I'll discuss each of those one by one, assess where they're at the moment, discuss the stuff from the exhibits, using the exhibits as my primary source of information. And then I discuss strategy. And again, if I dropped in there about BCG, that's fine. But if I didn't, not a problem at all. So you get the idea now. Models are there if you want to use them, if you want to discuss them, great. But if you don't want to, not a problem at all. But be driven by the exhibits. Really use that information from the exhibits. That's the important thing in this one. So here's some advice from the examining team based on this question. Many candidates made insufficient use of the information presented in the exam exhibits to support their answers. Now, what a lot of people will have done in this question, and what I don't want you guys to do, is notice market share and market growth and think, brilliant, BCG, I remember that from page 974 of my textbook or whatever you're using. And you go, I'm going to tell you all about that. So Boston Consulting Group Matrix was first founded in, and it is a grid which covers this. First of all, we have a star. A star is if we've got high growth and high market share. This is something, reciting general knowledge like that is getting you 0 marks. There is no point in you doing that. It is a waste of time. So you are far better off just using the exhibits and talking about what's in there. And do you know what really worries me? This last bit. Some candidates made no reference to market growth and or market share at all. Oh man, like that is, if that's one of my students at Club SBL in one of our marked mocks or homeworks, I'm ringing them up. I'm not doing my usual WhatsApp or voice notes. I'm giving them a call. I might even turn up at their house, banging on the door saying, what are you doing? You need to use the exhibits. Please, please, please make sure you're using those exhibits. So again, really important. And again, this isn't a one-off, by the way. These comments that you see here on the screen are so common in nearly every examiner report, saying people ignore the exhibits and yeah, they're just doing their own thing, really. They're just reciting knowledge. It's all about application. So very, very important you do that. So you've seen how we could use a model if we want to, but if we decided not to, that's fine. The key thing is using the exhibits. So actions for you. Go and look at some past exams. See this in action and look at questions and think, would a model be useful there? Yeah, maybe not. Okay, fine, not a problem at all. And I'm just going to go with that and go with your gut instinct and try and use exhibits as much as you can. Practicing questions to time is great. Now, if you can then get those marked, that's even better. So at Club SBL, we offer loads of marking, including 4 mocks, to make sure you're getting feedback and seeing how you're getting on. So if you can get those marked, that's going to be brilliant. And also then review those examiner comments. So look at those past exams and then see what the examiner said. Because the examiner points out things like the bit I showed you where it says, loads of students made this mistake, loads of students did this. So you know to avoid it. So go and look at those. And doing past exams is really good. It's really good in SBL. I know it's not going to be based on the company that your actual exam is, because you'll have an exam based on your pre-scene. But you can then see the full exam. You get a past pre-scene, you get to look at the actual exam questions, and then you get to look at the examiner comments. So it's like a full overview of that. So again, Bego is a great one. We use PVS as well in Club SBL, which is a vet one, which is brilliant. So there are loads of past exams available for free from ACCA, which you can then go and look at and make sure you practice those. And again, if you want to try using some models in there, great. But if you don't want to, and you just want to use your exhibits, that's absolutely fine. So thanks for watching. Use models wisely. Don't overdo them. Don't worry too much about learning loads of them either, because as you've seen, sometimes you may not know it, but it doesn't matter. If you've forgotten about BCG there, you would have been fine. In actual fact, it might have helped because you wouldn't have gone into too much detail. So use models wisely and you're going to be fine. Thanks for watching.